Right, I think we'll get started. We've got people coming in, but we've got a lot to pack in, so let's get going. So welcome to everyone who's joining us this afternoon, and all of those indeed who are watching on catch up. We've got a really wonderful session ahead this afternoon. It's brought to you from the Create and Design team, the Royal Opera House. So it's an invitation to immerse yourself in the absolutely magical world of the Royal Opera House. And I'm going to start by confessing a real interest. It's very dear to me. I worked for Royal Opera House for some time, some years, appointed within the bridge team, but also as an advisor and evaluator for some of their learning programs. So I've seen the power of Royal Opera House learning close up. And this particular program is turbocharged. There's something very unique about the way that Royal Opera House opens up creative industries to children and young people all across the UK. And that is significant. I was really fortunate to work with the late Gabrielle Forster-Steele, who founded Design Challenge, which you're going to hear about a little bit about tonight. And she had an absolute passion for theatre crafts. And obviously that's where NSEAD has a very particular interest, because it brings together so much of what you're doing in schools as part of the national curriculum. So Gabrielle came to conference back in 2019 to talk to us about Design Challenge in particular. It's absolutely wonderful to welcome Royal Opera House colleagues back to NSEAD once more to show us some of their work and how you can embed creative industry-led thinking from primary upwards. So we have with us Sandra Dartnell, who is the project manager for Design and Create in the Royal Opera House. And we've also got Ruth Payton, who's designer for performance. She is a Royal Opera House Design Challenge associate. So welcome, Royal Opera House team. We also have with us Bryony Marsden, who's head of curriculum and creative arts at North Hertfordshire College. And we've got Karen Harrison, who's the assistant academy manager at Harlow College. And they're going to give us that sort of perspective from a curriculum leader's view, who've been involved in these amazing create and design programs over time. So you're going to have the opportunity to make as well. So hopefully you've got your materials with you and to hand. But so at the heart of it, please do, if you don't have your materials with you, watch the playback so that you can have a go yourselves. But we're in for a treat, and I'm going to hand over at this point to Sandra to tell you all about the magic.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so yes, my name's Sandra Dartnell, and I'm the project manager for Create and Design and the Design Challenge. I'm part of the Royal Opera House team, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the two programmes that I look after to get things started. So Create and Design is part of Create and Learn, which are our flagships primary programmes, and they're designed to be easily implemented by non-specialist teachers. So these include Create and Design, but also Create and Dance and Create and Sing. And Create and Design explores the process that a theatre designer takes to bring a performance, in this case a ballet, from the page to the stage. And by taking part, teachers learn how to cultivate creativity and design thinking in children. And I can talk a bit more about design thinking as we go through. And what happens is that the children work through a design process, a real world design process, which is stages of research, exploration and development of original ideas as they meet a design brief, which is set by the director of the Royal Ballet. And Create and Design aims to increase teacher confidence, because it's training for trainers, training for the teachers to deliver design and technology, but also the art and design curriculums in primary schools across England. So that's Create and Design, part of Create and Learn. At Key Stage 4 and 5, a similar approach has a competitive element, and that's when the Design Challenge comes into play. So this is an annual student competition supporting teacher resources, and it's for students learning at secondary and post-16 education. So they might be learning at level 2, 3 or 4, and the resources are available all the time online, but if they want to take part in the competitive element, then there's a cycle of that takes place running from June to June. So the design challenge provides students with these skills, the same skills really, in research, concept development and design into a brief. And it's all about developing the confidence to present their own original idea to a professional design specification. So you can see really that the approach that we're taking across all of these levels is very similar. It provides students with an introduction to a new art form, in this case opera, and a professional process, and that helps to build the students' cultural capital and give them careers insight. As I say, I've gone over the levels that you can see on screen, but it can be built into your scheme of work, or it can be added as home learning or enrichment content. We go. So coming here today, this kind of distills what I think I've been asked to do, which is to provide some inspiration and some sharing of skills to help people to work with new and different techniques, and to bring a focus on industry-led learning in the classroom. And just to give you kind of a starting point, I wanted to talk a little bit about what motivates me. So there was something that came out in 2018 called the sector deal, and it was off the back of a set of recommendations that came out in the report that you can see on the screen. And in that document, and in the course of my career in the last 5 years, I've been really focusing on something which is to do with growing the talent pipeline, and this idea that that the talent pipeline is fundamentally succeeds or fails based on two things. And one is about social and informational barriers to entry. If you can't see it, you can't be it. If you can't find a way in that isn't through academia, then barriers are there to you entering into a sector where you could thrive. And also that everybody should have access to quality, consistency and availability of education and training. So these are the things that motivate me: access to roles, quality of education, education that's real, that's skills-based, that caters to applied learning styles, and that's informed by current expectations in terms of knowledge, skills and behaviours. And this is about, for me now, in the role that I'm in, developing this kind of line of sight to backstage, and an understanding for people of what creative skills and behaviours, what creative habits are valuable in the world and in that workplace. And that comes from working through applied processes. And this is why I really, really fundamentally believe that live briefs are so important, and also that they can start as young as Key Stage 1. So this is something from LinkedIn recently, and I just added it in because obviously creative and cultural education is a lot wider than careers, and we all might be motivated by many things that come from those possibilities. And I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that people see things in different ways, and ask you to think about today what motivates you, and what Ruth and I have to share, how that can help you to succeed with your motivations within the classroom. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with just a little bit of background in terms of research. So a report came out in 2018, but the data in the report, in spite of the pandemic, is usually what's referred to. And this is when the creativity and future of work findings said that our future economy will be built on creativity and technology. With artificial intelligence taking over routine tasks, there will be immense opportunities for people who combine creative, technical and social skills, skills that are resilient to future automation. So this is where we got the thinking that says that the creative sector is at low risk from automation. Also that there was going to be a huge number of jobs growing, and that would be double the projected job growth across the UK economy in creative jobs. Now, obviously, COVID had an impact on that, but people still project increased growth in our sector than others. And this is just to, I like seeing things in diagrammatic form. So this is to show the 2.18 million creative occupations that were forecast. And just to highlight the fact that this does include artists, you can see it highlighted by me at the top, that artists within various different parts of the sector and subsector are included. And then when we're looking at high demand skills, cognitive skills such as originality, fluency of ideas and active learning, system skills, judgment and decision making, these are all the things that you find in live briefs, and the live briefs that I have within my programs at the Royal Opera House, and also collaboration, communication and social perceptiveness. These are also part of working through live briefs, and the pitch and presentation and reflection aspects of them. So what does this, what do these artists that I'm talking about, what does this look like in the real world? So I just wanted to share a couple of stills from the Royal Opera House Scenic Workshops at Purfleet, and what you're not seeing is the woodwork workshop and the metalwork rooms. But you know, this is just to emphasise the fact that these are real jobs, and they include entry-level jobs and apprenticeships such as props technician and costume performance technician, and also in development the scenic artist apprenticeship, which the Royal Opera House will host at some point in the future and is at the centre of developing. So these are real jobs that you can encourage young people to see, and the data shows that there are gaps, skills gaps and shortages across the sector, and particularly in technical workers outside London. So it's not just something about London, it's something for the whole of the country to consider. So the role of live briefs, this is one that I was able to deliver prior to being at the Royal Opera House, and I'm just highlighting this because this is an artist-centred brief, and it referred to the Talis, Bill Lucas and the Talis Creative Habits as the basis of it, and it's just interesting for people to take a look at, as it's still online and something that's still accessible for use, but it's very much about an artistic response. I worked on the development of a different live brief, and this was more about the commissioning process and being able to develop skills that combined creative and business skills, so that we could bring through people that were able to thrive in the creative industries, which are 33% self-employed. So these and those high demand skills were used to underpin the thinking behind this particular live brief. Okay, so this is day-to-day impacts and change that were felt in response to our live brief, the Create and Design live brief at primary level, when a whole school took part in it earlier this year. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things, which was the chance to experience real life contexts, so the children know why they're learning certain skills. And that means that the children have really taken on board the role of a designer and bring it up in lessons, making cross-curricular links. There was feedback about using the design book, collating ideas and thoughts in one place, enabling children to see their own progression right there in front of their eyes, and produce better quality sketchbooks over time, and really use annotation. There was feedback that it enabled people to be brave and fully dissect areas that link to jobs, but that unlock skills for children. And for the teachers, they were able to relinquish having so much control over their creative decisions by enabling the children to choose their own range of materials and take more ownership and have a go. And they felt that they would, one teacher felt that they would give the children more chance in the future to work roughly, spending less time being perfect and taking more time with the process, which just makes me want to cheer. And the teachers came away valuing modelling the thinking process, so that the children can see how an idea develops, and encouraging problem solving around 3D. So thinking about, how you make a tree, is it strong enough? How can you make your tree stronger? That kind of thing. So it's just to give you an idea that there are very business-led live briefs, and there are very artistic live briefs, and they can be used at primary all the way through to post 16, and they're really worth exploring, and I hope that some people will explore the Royal Opera House live briefs with me. Okay, so before we come on to the make, I just wanted to show people what a model box looks like. Ruth will be talking about the model box and the role that it plays, but this is one model box, which is you can probably see me in the background of that picture in the pit lobby at the Royal Opera House. But when we talk to people about white card modelling, you know, this has just gone a little bit further than the white card, but you can really see that it's very stripped back to basic three-dimensional elements, but really starting to set the scene. If we think about the create and design and the materials that we have, I just want people to understand that they're video-based materials, that they cover things like scale, that they show people the real world context. So you can see Ruth there with a model box meeting, so that people can start to understand where this box goes when it goes outside of the classroom. And then also just to give an insight into what the expectation of the work at the end of the process looks like. This is the kind of the white card prototyping that you get to at the end of the process. And then you've seen the model box at the Royal Opera House, and you've seen the model box just there as part of a meeting, but this is you know, a lo-fi approach in the classroom. So really teachers only need a cardboard box for their classroom model box, some instructions, and all of the support that we have online to get started and to fly with their students. So I'm going to hand over to Ruth in a second, but this is just to set up the first part of the exercise. So the designer for the Ballet Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, at some point in time, all they had was a white piece of paper. And then they were able to go through a similar process to the process that we're going to outline today to end up with an amazing scene like that. So it's just to bring you back from that scene to your blank piece of paper as a starting point for the exercise that we're going to do with Ruth today. Okay, Ruth, are you okay? Are you set up with both cameras?
Yeah, I think so, although I can't. Can you see my camera?
Let me just double check.
Overhead. There it is. Yeah, so we're all good.
Okay, great. So so Ruth, what I need to do is just check that everybody who is making along with us has a piece of paper and has at least a magazine at this point with them, and also that they have audio on so that they can hear the music that we're going to play. And then you tell me whether you want to say anything before I read a little bit of the story, or if you want me to just start with that.
I'll just say a quick hello, really. It's very nice to have you all here, and I hadn't actually heard what Sandra was talking about before, but there were two things that really stuck with me, and one of them was the importance of messiness in the classroom, and the other, somewhere along the lines, I think a teacher maybe had said the importance of unlimited positivity, I think, something like that. And that really resonates with me. I teach at university level, and I think those two things are appropriate right from the youngest to the oldest. And what we're going to do today is actually a microcosm of what we would do with undergraduates, and indeed what we do ourselves as designers. So it's just a rather speeded up version for you today. So I think, Sandra, are you going to read a bit of the story and play some music?
Yeah, I'll just read the story. And so the piece of the story that you're going to work from this afternoon is thinking about the hallway of doors. It's actually not one of the scenes that we asked the teachers and the students to work through, but we've picked it today. And just before that scene, I'm just going to read. So the story begins down the rabbit hole. So Alice is at home with her family on a summer's day, and there's a garden party with many unusual guests. Alice falls asleep in the sunshine. A white rabbit runs by, and Alice is surprised to see him pull a watch out of his coat pocket and look worried. She follows the rabbit down the rabbit hole and falls a long way down. So that's what's happened. Then the scene that you're going to concentrate on is the hallway of doors. So Alice lands and finds herself in a hallway with lots of doors that are locked. She finds one tiny door that she can see through the keyhole of, but she's too big to fit through. Through the keyhole, Alice can see a garden on the other side. She eats a cake that's labelled Eat Me and drinks a bottle that's labelled Drink Me. She grows bigger and smaller, but she's still not the right size to fit through the door. Alice starts to cry. Alice is so big that her tears become a huge pool and she dives into it. So I'm going to leave that on the screen, and I'm hoping that at the same time as that being on the screen, I can share some music with you. Ruth, do you want to give any instructions before I start playing the music?
No, I think we don't need very much of the music. In fact, once we've had a little bit, then you could probably just fade it out, and I think we should get going.
Okay. Can you hear that?
Just to interject, I think the main thing you're listening for is atmosphere and mood. Okay, so that is a really beautiful piece of music. In fact, the whole score is really exciting. It's written by this young composer, Joby Talbot, and that piece was very lyrical, but there's also lots of contemporary music in there. There's jazz moments, there's tap dancing, it's kind of got everything. Anyway, in that passage, he's obviously conjuring up this part of the story that some of you will already know, where Alice lands. She's fallen down a rabbit hole, she lands, and it's the only thing we know is that it's a corridor full of doors. When we're designing for opera and for ballet, then music forms a really integral part of what we're soaking in, as well as the story. As stage designers, our overall role is to make a world where this story can take place on stage and where people will believe, or at least throw themselves into it, not necessarily believing that it's real. So how we respond to music is a really key part of our job. So what I thought we'd do today is one of the first steps, really, and I don't know, my students call these mood boards, but I actually don't like the word mood board much. I don't really think they need a name. It's just that when we start something, we want to try and get down our first impressions as quickly as possible. And for some people that might be drawing, but for other people who don't feel so confident with getting their idea down into drawn form, then ripping and tearing is a physical activity that everyone can get involved with. So I don't know, I can't actually see you all, so I don't know whether you've got one of these, a glossy magazine, But what we'll do is we're going to play that music again. And I just want you to sort of soak up two things at once. First is the music and what the music is telling you. And second is what you know is happening in the story, which is there's a young girl, she's fallen down a rabbit hole, she's landed, and she's in some sort of corridor full of doors. And you can all see there's my piece of paper. I've chosen an A5 piece of paper. There it is. Just line it up for you. There we go. And I am literally, I'll just start off so you know the kind of thing I'm going to do. I'm going to go through this magazine and find things that to me relate to the music that I'm hearing, the story that I know. And the way that I do it is I will create a little pile, and then with my Pritt stick, but you could just lay them on top of your paper if you don't have any glue, I will start playing around with these images on the piece of paper and sticking them down. But I'm not going to do any more because we're all going to do it together. So Sandra, are you able to replay that music or go from where we left off? Yeah. So let's all try. I'm not expecting, by the way, for these to look like beautiful scenes. It's just your first response to music with story into image. Thanks. I talk, can you hear this over the music? All right, good. Okay, I'll try not to rabbit on too much, but I was just going to say that I know lots of artists say this, but it's thinking comes out of doing for me. So as I'm doing this, ideas are forming, and that's why that's a great part. One of the things that I think about for myself is not to let the cerebral part of my brain take over too much. It's like, you know, when you get your students to draw with their wrong hand, you're really encouraging them to let go of their brain processing and instead just respond. Right, I'm almost there. I don't know how you're getting on. Sandra, maybe you can feel the music.
There we go. There is no fade function.
There's no fade. And I'm not sure who's in control of the Zoom. Not you, Sandra.
Me, that's me.
Oh, it's you. Who said me?
Diane, it's Diane.
Oh, hello. Do you think you could change the screen so that we can see everybody's?
Yes.
Because what I'd love to do is just see what other people are doing, if indeed there
If
is anyone
possible,
else.
Sandra, would you be able to stop screen sharing? And then that should make sure that we can see everyone.
So I should be able to, oh yeah, so now I can see. So I don't know how many people are actually taking part or who is just watching and in order to do this later on, is totally fine. If you have made something, perhaps you could switch on your screen and just hold it up for me. Sandra, you waved something. What did you wave?
I had something which felt like it could be any way up kind of
Oh yeah.
element. And then I found something that felt really very dreamy. Everything so far had been quite harsh lines in the magazine that I was looking at, and then like more like that, but then a very dreamy element. So I haven't put them onto a piece of paper, but I'm just collecting these things.
Right. So, well, you can see with mine that I'm just making it up as I go. So don't think that I've got some amazing prior plan. But what I've ended up with is some sort of, well, I actually thought that when I first did it, that this was a moon, but looking at it now, maybe it could actually be the light coming in down from the top of the rabbit hole. And then I was thinking that I would have, because I mean, directly influenced by the magazine that I'm ripping from, I've got these amazing different patterns for some doors to make a corridor. I'm just going to flick through the button that shows me everyone else's. Is anyone there who'd like to share, or shall I just keep going? Someone's got a very nice Apple charging. I think that's it. Anyway, okay. So what I thought I'd do is show you how. So that took what, all of 5 minutes or something. Of course, you could do this a lot more drawn out and invest a bit more into it. But that's a very quick response to a very short piece of music. I thought I'd show you how I could then encourage people to go from something like this into working 3D, because all the time in the process of designing, you're going from 2D communication into something 3D. And the sooner you start that process, the easier it becomes with people who haven't done it before. You get quite used to flipping your head like that. So I'm just clearing my decks slightly. What I've got here is a piece of black card, and I have another one that I can do this and make a very rudimentary stage and back wall to make sort of a model box. And I'm just going to really fast try and scale up my image here and make it 3D. So a few background things for doing that. First of all, whenever we're working in a model box, then we're working to scale. I've got my super branded scale ruler here, and they have a couple of scales on here which theatre designers use. One is 1:25. That's the most usual scale, and in 1:25 scale, then you're working 25 times smaller than real life, and a person my sort of height, which is not that tall, ends up being that big. However, because we're working so fast, using a different scale makes working quickly easier. So we're going to work in 1:50, which is often used for sketch models in the theatre. And actually at the Opera House, because that stage is so vast, then you use it quite a lot there. So 1:50 on my, I don't know, I'm doing it here, I can do it here, can I? Oh no, it's actually easier here. There we go, there's my 1:50 scale. So I'm going to draw a little person who is 1:60 m, which is my height. And so my favourite modelling material in the whole world is cereal packets. And I love cereal packets because you can cut them with scissors. You can, because they're a little bit plastic, not plasticated, but printed on one side, then they hold paint quite well and without too much warpage. And why else do I like them? Because they're grey. So if you have them this way around, then they're a nice blank canvas. So I'm just going to cut out, I'm going to measure 1:60 m with my scale ruler here. So there we go, there's the 1 meter increment, so then that makes 160. I'm going to draw a figure of me. Oh, that's terrible, I'm going to do another one. Okay. Cut these out. Now, when you're doing this with a group, one of the things you have to get sorted early on is how you're going to make everything stand up in your model. So to do this, the simplest way is using a triangle. So using a bit of masking tape here, just to attach this triangle to this little person. And okay, that's aerial shot for you. I'm going to have to hold it like that. There we go.
Ruth,
Side view, yeah.
I was just going to say, I went to see one of the model boxes at the Warnock House the other day, and all of the trees were stood up with triangles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't, yeah, triangles, they just, I don't know. How else would you do it? I'm going to do two.
So I haven't got my scale ruler here today. How would I try and do myself at scale? I've done a rough estimation, but
well, I think that this is quite genius. I discovered this myself, so I'm quite proud of this. But amazingly, working at 1 to 50, you are the height of your knuckle of your thumb to the top of your thumb there. I don't know why this works. It's one of those really weird things, but I'm very pleased with that. 1 to 25, I worked out another one. Hang on, 1 to 25, here it is. And it's another really funny one. Oh yeah, that's right. It's actually your thumb down to the second knuckle. So you can do that. And then once you've made your figure, then you're into relative scale, by which I mean, if you know that that's the person and you know what a person looks like next to a door, you can roughly guess the size of a door. Speaking of which, that's what I'm going to do. So just to remind you, that was my mood boardy thing. Look, there's my person. Actually, that looks like some sort of Ellsworth Kelly 1960s set, doesn't it? I'll see if I can beat that. So now I'm going to try and make this into 3D. So my first thought is, how am I going to do these? If this becomes a background, these are going to become doors. I know that that's easy because I'm just going to put them on a triangle, cut them out of card, put them on a triangle. How am I going to do this? Because I didn't know what I meant when I was making it. So but if we imagine that that's my back wall and that this is going to attach here to make my stage, I'm just going to tape that so it stays in place. I've got to sort of speed everything up, otherwise we're going to run out of time. All right, I'm going to start speaking very quickly and concentrate on doing this. So there's my stage. I have here some foil. I love foil, and I love it best when I've stuck something on it. So I've got some black tissue paper. Okay, I'm going to do this like this, but you would take much more time and care over it. Now, that combination to me, foil with tissue paper, is the most amazing sculptural material. There's a delay on my iPhone. That's really weird. It's going in slow mo. Oh, I'll show you here. There we are. Can you see that? This is what you actually use for making fabric in a model, like model curtains or something. But I'm going to use it to try and recreate this shape here and this shape here. I'm going to stick that together with a bit of tape. It's back in real time now. How weird.
I think that just there was too much rapid movement and it just got a bit confused.
So slow down. Right. So that's what I've got so far. I'm going to try and keep that in the frame so you can see what I'm working to. And then to create this shape here, I need to find, oh yeah, I have to use this. I think this is some sort of marble tiling that you can buy for a lot of money. I want to put it here. So this is forming some sort of backdrop, I suppose. And then I wanted a moon, and I'm going to use, this is the piece of someone's skin, but I think it's very glossy.
Oh, Sarah, who?
And I'm going to put that there. This is what I have so far. Switching to this view now. Okay. And where's my person gone? Here's my person. And then the next thing I was going to do is cut out some doors. Luckily, I had 2 prepared already. I need another one. Have we got time for me to make another door, or shall I just hold it up and show you?
I think we'd love to see another door.
Okay, great.
Got time.
I don't have quite enough hands for this. So I'm attaching another door. I'm actually going to put some glue on that one. So you can see, I think the only thing I've used is masking tape and glue so far to fix things down. There we go. So I've got 3 doors. Try and get a better angle for you. Oops. And just to remind you, this is my original one. So I went from that 2D to that 3D. And the person's fallen over.
Fantastic.
It's only falling over because, oh no, there we are, because it's hanging off the edge of the table.
We've got a lovely sort of double time delay going with the
Yeah, I know, that's really
great,
weird, isn't it?
but it's quite nice. It's creating a lovely slow energy to go along with the quick. Thank you so much, Ruth.
I was just going to say, the beauty of this is that you can flat pack it afterwards, so students can then just take it home in their little carrier bag thingies if they still have those at the primary school.
So Ruth, should we just quickly say, so what you used there was 2 pieces of black card,
Yeah,
a magazine,
yeah,
some masking tape and some cereal packets.
and some
And
Pritt stick.
tin foil and Pritt stick.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just
Brilliant.
switching off this other camera because my phone's going to give up. Yeah. Yes, that is what I used. And I used an L decoration, which is the superior magazine choice. But actually, Guardian and other paper colour supplements, don't know about the other papers, but Guardian colour supplement is really good. It's got that nice kind of slightly cheap coloured paper, and the Observer's the same.
Okay, well, I think Michelle, I'm ready to move forward, but if you wanted to ask anything before I go again, then let me know.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, we had some really powerful messages there, as well as some like incredible tips. Working to scale with your thumb in that way. Wow, who knew?
Who knew? I know, I only came up with it because of having to teach primary school kids without, I used to give out photocopies of scale rulers, but they're not very nice to work with. So it's actually much more immediate.
I still have nightmares about a workshop I did many years ago with primary school children about scaling. If I had had my thumbs at the ready, it could have gone a lot a lot happier.
I know. I still dread teaching scale because, you know, with my brain, I have to think quite hard about scale.
And I think that the message I've taken from that really sort of super quick and jam-packed workshop there is, as Sandra said, don't fear the white page, the blank page. You know, embrace it. And the fact is that anything that is man-made didn't exist before somebody imagined it. And I love that. Just dive in, as you said, Ruth. You know, thinking comes out of doing. Well, that make first pedagogy is something that we're very keen to promote here at NSCAD. Our subject is about getting in and using those materials and making, and it's just a wonderful way to reduce the fear. So thank you so much.
Oh, I absolutely agree about reducing fear. That's kind of my mantra. And also it's about reducing pressure on people to produce something lifelike or realistic, because as I was just looking at this on the desk going, I could send that to my mum and she'd probably be quite happy with it. You know, if you take away the pressure of having to draw, then you can just use colour and image and form to do something which is appealing. Okay, maybe it's only appealing to me and my mum, but it's so satisfying.
And this is the joy of the live brief, of course, is that it takes you into the heart of actual practice as opposed to imagined practice. And the imagined practice is this terrifying thing that involves all kinds of technicalities that we can't possibly grasp. And actually, you've shown us you can dive in and you can be a designer from the get-go. So thank you so much.
That's been
I'll hand over to Sandra then. We're going to hear a bit about this in practice. You're on the infamous mute there.
Sorry, I had something blocking me getting to the button, so I just need to do the screen share again. 1 second. Okay, great. Everyone can hear me again now, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just move quickly forward through a few slides which just give you more of a flavour of what things look like. So this is what the training looks like and the kind of things that the teachers create when we get together on the day or online like this. I won't go through this because Ruth's covered everything, but just this idea of starting from music, building up a 2D picture of the world and then experimenting very quickly with rough modelling to test and learn. That's really what everything is all about at the primary level. This is just an example of what the primary brief looks like that the teacher has to use. So it is a design brief with a design specification. It's simplified from what we use at other levels of learning, but it's real, and it also comes in video form. This is some sketchbook work from Templars, the school that I mentioned earlier, where they took a whole school approach. And I couldn't bear to crop this, so I just showed it on its side because these are some of the model boxes that were on display at the end of their project. So then just jumping forward, really, this is jumping forward now into this year's design challenge, and one of the secondary highly commended set box designs. This was a response to Peter Grimes, and it's from a student at North Hertfordshire College. This is a sketchbook, so I'm just kind of mirroring really the expectations and the process that we have, and these are examples of the briefing letters that the students working at Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 receive. So you can see, you know, the reason this is titled From Primary Upwards is the approach can be the same, it's just how it's delivered and that makes the difference. So yes, so I'm going to introduce Bryony now, and Bryony has been working on and with the design challenge for a lot longer than me, and I wanted Bryony just to speak for a couple of minutes just about really why it works at North Hertfordshire College and how it's worked, and maybe a little bit about some of the flexibilities you've introduced around it.
Lovely, thank you, Sandra. Hello, everyone. I manage a very large creative arts department at North Hertfordshire College. All our learners are 16 plus, but we have level 1 through to level 4, and at the lower levels, an awful lot of SEN learners who absolutely take part in the design challenge and thrive with the live briefs. So as Sandra said, we've been doing the design challenge for a number of years. We've embedded it into the curriculum at all levels and at all specialisms. So at the higher levels, we've embedded it within art, within fashion, and within graphics, and then at our lower levels as well, which are the more generic courses. And we've explored different models over the years. So we've put it absolutely into core curriculum and made it an assessed project at some point. So that's our favoured route, if you like. But there have been times when we've used it as a work experience project, particularly when things have been challenging to get out for work experience. We've used it as additional project for some students. And for some students at the upper levels, they've chosen to take it on as an individual project or an extended project of their own accord. We run University of Arts London courses, and the design cycle of research, idea development and so on absolutely maps over to many of the units that are offered by UAL at the lower levels, kind of contextual awareness, 3D, 2D design, materials process and techniques and so forth. But we have managed to map it over this year to the Applied General, which is the new incoming UAL course. And for the Applied General, we run it with the Year 2 students as one of their earlier projects. As well as UAL, I think it's really interesting to talk briefly about our home ed course as well. So we run a short course for home educated young people, and they range from 11 to 15, and they come in for 12 weeks for one afternoon a week. There's no qualification attached to this course. It's a way of accessing our delivery here and preparing those young people to hopefully come into college later. But over the 12 weeks, we run Design Challenge. That is our course, and that's worked really well. Particularly the home ed community have enjoyed that, and we've had a lot of really good feedback from the parents as well as the students as well. So just trying to show you that the range from home ed right through up to level 4, we've managed to offer this programme. Whilst most of them take part in the competitive element, there have been points where, for example, with our level 1 learners, we've ran it at different times of year or a reduced element of it that's appropriate for those learners. And it's been quite nice when we've had a whole departmental approach to Design Challenge, because it's enabled us to have in-house exhibitions where you're seeing the work produced at all different levels, all working towards the same opera and so forth as well. The staff and the students really benefit and enjoy the live brief. And that's really important and key to us. The students enjoy the choices that are presented, be that within the categories or with the different directors' visions. But from a manager's perspective, I particularly like it in terms of it meeting Ofsted, many of Ofsted's new focus on skills, particularly. It ticks all that kind of criteria that we're really pushing for at the moment, because it is so industry led. And also the staff have been very positive around the resources that have been provided by Sandra and the team in terms of the variety of sources as well, from videos to the music, and the live Q&A sessions the staff and the students have been really appreciative of in terms of taking them through that process. Interestingly, it's kind of presented extended learning for the art courses as well, because the element of having to produce the video at the end of the design challenge for some of our learners to condense that into, I think it was 1.5 minutes last time, I can't remember, but actually having to make the video and consolidate their work in that way and present verbally as well their sketchbook is a real transferable skill, but also extended learning for them. And on a practical level, we've had to bring in support from our media department to enable our students to do that and support our art and fashion student staff to produce that work as well. That can be quite time intensive, but what a wonderful extended learning opportunity. And the staff also think that the context that the opera's provide that we've been presented with so far link to that wider curriculum. So themes of inclusivity, themes of kind of social themes, social perspectives, class, so on and so forth. That's been really rich and a really good link to the broader and wider curriculum that we're pushing forward always. There's obviously the obvious kind of benefits for the students who are fortunate enough to be selected as part of the winners or highly commended, but we really still feel that the whole department benefit, particularly with the approach we take with having the in-house exhibitions and just celebrating the students' work in that regard. So that gives you an overview, I hope, as to how we approach Design Challenge at North Arts College.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going through the slides again now, and I will just ask Bryony to add a couple of comments. So I'm going to, speak from my perspective here, Bryony, but correct me if I'm wrong about anything. So Charlie is one of the students who took part in the challenge and was awarded the prize in the secondary category for costume. And the reason I've put these particular words on the screen is I just wanted people to see what happens internally within the colleges and the schools. There's a pre-selection process and so we get to see the judging sheets that take place within the education settings, and I've highlighted here in red a costume design that has both aesthetic beauty and considered practical solutions for Peter Grimes to wear on stage at the Royal Opera House. That really nails a response to a brief as opposed to a drawing of a costume. So it's about that kind of and when we look at the D&T curriculum at primary, then that's all about something for somebody for some reason, and that's the difference between the artistic response and the moving into the area of product design and designing for a user and design thinking. Also just flagging up the fact that every student who comes through and is awarded is shortlisted and is judged by the team at the Royal Opera House, receives personal feedback. So I've just highlighted that there, and the kind of just so you can see the names of and the roles of a few judges. This is just to show you what a sketchbook might look like at secondary level. And it's a design and make brief. So this is the costume that was the prototype that was designed and showed to us and then became exhibited at the Royal Opera House. And in the video, Charlie explained, that somebody was going to need to get this on and off really, really quick. So she showed us how that would happen. And what she didn't know was that at the Royal Opera House, we have silver whopper poppers. And if she'd known they were in the costume department, then she would have probably added those. But, she had a real sense of what needed to be part of the costume to make it work. Sam is another student, and you saw some of his work before, but again, just to show you that the feedback is completely different, and the presentation of the sketchbook is different, and the students are asked to show us a 1.5-minute video, but also select 3 pictures, and it makes a real difference which 3 pictures they select. Sometimes we have the same thing 3 times. In other cases, it really helps you to understand how they understand the story and how they feel that a set might move from one scene to another. So I'd like to ask Karen if she'd join me for a little conversation now. Karen.
Hello.
Hello. So Karen, if feel free to say something if you want to about overall how Harlow College has worked with the Design Challenge, but what I was wanting to ask you to particularly comment upon was the feedback and how that works to the benefit of the students and the staff.
Okay, so we really enjoy delivering Design Challenge. This is our 6th year. We started with Salome. We offer all the pathways to our 2nd year art and design students. We map it against the UAL creative practice specification. We offer all 4 of the directors' briefs, and we offer all 4 visions as well. And the students really love that opportunity to mix and match and pick what they want to do. Our students tend to be interested in interior design and illustration, and that leads them towards the set and marketing. But it's always really interesting. We do it in the 1st term of the 2nd year. And students often say, I want to try something new. I want to make costumes because I've never done that before. I want to extend my skills. So that's really good. We feel it opens their eyes to a world they didn't even know existed. Some of them have never been to the opera or the theatre, and we've taken advantage of the school's matinee. And it was really lovely the year we went to see Romeo and Juliet, because that was the opera we'd been working on. And we had a lot of set people that year, and they'd made some really diverse, different types of sets. But I think every year the students really love the link to the issues that might come up and the history. They love the history. They're really interested in when the opera was written and when it's set. And it's kind of interesting because it's been in like Carmen. It was what the composer thought the 1820s or the 1830s was like, and that was really interesting for them. But you asked me to talk about the feedback, so we love getting the feedback. We find it really challenging to pick our winner, because to find an all-rounder who's good at the research, got a great outcome, videos the right bits and can speak about it as well is quite a challenge. But we love the feedback. Sometimes the feedback can be quite realistic as to what you would probably get if you were working in the industry. So it's not always quite as positive as we might be. When I spoke to you earlier, I said sometimes you go straight for the jugular and tell them what's wrong with it. Ellie's was a really interesting submission. COVID and social distancing come through. If you can see in the pictures, she's used masks. And what was interesting, in part of the video, there's lots and lots of materials exploration, but then she caught COVID. So from melting fabrics, she moved to digital presentation. And that's why there's so much really innovative digital stuff. And she'd also been to the coast in the summer to take some pictures, and her pictures were taken on a not very sunny day, so they really fitted in. But the feedback says that the judges would have liked to see more actual application of the makeup and more styling of the hair for her final photograph. So that's really great feedback for us as teachers, because we won't forget that now. So every year we'll make sure that there's a really good photographic record of what the design would have looked like as well. When we've introduced it this year, we've had students doing black and white pencil designs of their makeup designs, because we do workshops in all the 4 specialisms at the start, and we share with the students all the lovely CPD that we do when we go to the Opera House CPD or the Zoom CPD we've been doing. And yes, and they were doing it in black and white. And we were saying to them, well, actually, the people in the makeup room, they're going to use black and white. They don't know that you actually mean purple eyeshadow and green eyebrows, because you've drawn it in black and white pencil. And yeah, just to sort of sum up, we really enjoy it, and we always put on an in-house exhibition as well to sort of celebrate the students' work, and we put that in our library so it can be seen by as many people as possible.
Thank you. Thanks so much, and thank you to the students, agreeing for us to continue to use their work after the exhibition, and to also speak candidly about feedback, and also touching on this idea of the director's vision. You know, this was quite a challenging director's vision, and this particular student was, I think, the only one that went for director's vision 4 in the whole of the year, and it, you know, it created a very different response. So, okay, brilliant, thank you so much. So yeah, so just to wrap things up, if I can, just wanted to highlight something which is a standalone project that's been part of a specific piece of work that we've been doing with Doncaster, which Learning and Participation have been doing with Doncaster over a number of years now in a wider sense than even the Create and Learn programmes. But thinking about the difference between perhaps a classic design process and when people start to talk about design thinking nowadays, it doesn't just mean thinking about design, it means thinking about certain aspects of design. And the things that I like to highlight and as slightly different and things that people can start to think about at primary level is the idea of developing empathy for a user. So it's entirely possible to design for the stage, listening to the director's vision and thinking about how the audience might interpret the story or understand the visual communication. It's easy to just think, well, a dancer needs space and surface and certain things, but if you can get the students to think about the dancer as an active participant in the design process, then you can get a stronger response. And so ways to try and do that in this kind of pilot project were to, the brief was to design a hat for the Mad Hatter. So how do you get someone to think about all the possibilities that there might be for a hat? Well, I happened to find a piece of footage where the hat's not there, and that was really helpful to understand and focus the students on what's the dancer doing that's telling the story, and what hat might help the dancer to tell the story. So developing empathy is a key part of design thinking, and also prototyping. So this was part of the same project, and we were trying to connect the students with like the infinite possibilities of experimenting with prototypes and getting them to ask themselves, what might you design for a dancer to truly become the Mad Hatter, to themselves, to the choreographer, and to the audience. And this takes us, you know, across from the realm of the classic design process into product design and design thinking. This is the response of the winner of that particular process, and this is the hat which was made by the hats and jewellery and the dye workshop team at the Royal Opera House within the costume department, and was worn by the Mad Hatter at a performance in Doncaster last weekend, which was absolutely incredible performance, but also absolutely incredible performance for a hat. So that's just to end on that. This is Hazel Raven. She is the person that I've been in contact with around that particular live brief, and this is the quote that she provided, and I just wanted to include it because she really made me remember that, you know, it's not the one person who comes through, it's the whole team that benefit, all of the students and all of the staff. And she, you know, she says we were all winners as the materials provided as part of the brief, and the availability of the professionals involved emphasised the relevance and the real-time elements of the project, giving a taste of what it would be like to undertake a project as paid employment. So that's quote that I wanted to kind of end on. I wanted to give thanks to the education settings that have taken part today, but also to Templars who've provided me with information in reams along the way. And then I just wanted to highlight a quote in a report that's quite recent and talks about creativity and craft. And it says, powerful arts education organisations centre young people as creators. They support and equip them to create art and to build their creative capacity, deepening their understanding and awareness of the creative process and developing their creative skills. Teaching artists serve as the core educators and mentors at these organisations and model how artists think, work and engage with the world. You know, I feel very privileged and happy to have inherited projects that I now take forward that I feel are the embodiment of that kind of ethos. And so yeah, with that, I think I'm able to just then say, if anybody would like further information about the design challenge, I think you will be able to be supplied with that as part of the post session information. I'd like to raise attention to the fact that there is an event called Theatre Craft, which is happening at the Royal Opera House. So if you want something for your students to participate in, this event would be a great thing that's happening in person and online in October and not to miss out on. And yeah, that's a way for anybody to contact me really about either project, but for primary teachers to come forward. And that's
Wow, thank you, Sandra. My goodness. There is so much in this, isn't there? The 10 dimensions of effective design education. It's all here. I would say dimensions of effective education, full stop, are all here. It's an absolute no-brainer. Why would you not get involved in this? We've got a few questions. I'm going to kind of, if you guys wouldn't mind hanging around and taking a few questions, that would be great. But just to pick up on some of the things we've heard there about the relevance and value of engaging with the Create and Design Programme and Design Challenge, the thing that really strikes me from particularly what I heard from Karen and Bryony are the employability skills that sit around this. And I'd say they start at the very earliest stages when your primary children engage with the rough makes and really thinking like a designer and being a designer right the way through. But, you know, Karen, you were talking about that tough feedback that came to your students. It was a bit not as gentle as you might do. You know, being able to take feedback actually is a critical skill.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's and all the stuff. I mean, I think that's such an important one for you to bring forward, though, because we often think about, well, there's problem solving, there's teamwork, there's communication, and that's all there in spades. But actually, that resilience to be able to work in that environment, I think it's so valuable. It's a very expansive way to work. Theatre crafts cover everything that you might want to do within the national curriculum and everything that isn't in there as well. And Bryony, you know, you were really touching upon that very powerfully. You know, within set and costume design, you cover any discipline, any materials. There are no limits, are there, really? Which obviously Ofsted do like, that they're quite interested in a discipline-based approach. And I think you're right, Bryony, it ticks those boxes in terms of that skills agenda, but actually it's incredibly expressive. It's not limiting at all. So thanks so much for setting that out, because I think teachers need to hear that, and we need the confidence to engage with it. But a few questions, if I could start with one to, this one's for Brian and Karen. And it's about when you present this with the briefs to your students. Some of them may already be opera and ballet fanatics, but perhaps not.
Not yet. Not yet in 6 years. No, ballet. Oh, no, I'm wrong. No, ballet. Yes, ballet. A few.
The question we've got is, how do your students react at first when they're given the brief to the idea that they are going to immerse themselves in this world?
With resistance initially. That's the honest answer. But we, you know, like Karen, we take the opportunity for the school's matinees anyway to actually have that experience of going to the Royal Opera House, and that breaks down certain barriers anyway. And then the staff do a really good job at selling everything else that's involved to, and actually what, you know, actually if you look at the context, there's lots of modern themes in here. Don't just hear opera and hear something that's not relevant to you. And something that Karen picked up on as well, we do all sorts of kind of primary research. For Peter Grimes, we took a coach out to the seaside one day. So off we all went to the seaside and did some drawing down at the beach, and that was brilliant. So the different operas afford different kind of trips for us as part of our research as well, that can be quite fun.
So at the end of the programme, are they converted? Do they feel that the Royal Opera House is a place where they are comfortable and they belong?
Some of them. Yeah. They were always so excited though. The fact that it's written by a real producer, theatre designer, that really gets them. They love that. They love the fact it's a competition. And because now we can say, oh, we've had a costume winner and we've had a makeup runner-up, then they're really inspired.
That leads me on to another question we've got here actually, which is about careers and, you know, the extent to which taking part in Design Challenge has opened up awareness of the range of career options that there are within the theatre.
More so for costume than anything else. So costume, yes, an interest in set, but not really been taken up. So when they get to their UCAS, they might put Wimbledon down for some courses, but they then still pick illustration at somewhere else. But, you know, it's a slow change, but definitely costume.
We've had broad progression and students that are interested in sort of props and animatronics and all that kind of stuff who've taken part. But yeah, I think what's interesting, Karen picked up on it, sometimes in the second years, the students want to actually just try something different to their main course.
Yeah,
and I was surprised how many of my graphic students pick set design. And that was really interesting to see their approach and all the transferable skills that go as part of that. And just a broad understanding of what opportunities there are is great further down the line.
Fantastic. So just open horizons. It's just I'll never forget the first time I went to High House and saw the set build and, you know, the model boxes on the side, and then there it's happening in this huge vast space. Everything you could possibly imagine. It's quite mind-boggling and awe-inspiring. Got a question here, which is actually about those visits to theatre spaces and sort of behind the scenes as well. So it's a UK-wide programme. So there are students taking part in Design Challenge and Creative Design across the UK, Sandra. What are the opportunities for students to visit theatres, both the Royal Opera House and beyond?
So there's the school's matinee programme, which is people would need to start expressing interest for next year. It works quite. It's a massive endeavour, and it books up quite far in advance in terms of the cycle. So there's the school matinees, and that has criteria to do with distance and you know, number of free school meals and things in order to make judgments in the process of awarding the opportunities. There's also I flag up to the tutors the cinema programme. I actually live in the northwest of England, and so I often see things at the cinema, and there is great wraparound content that comes with the cinema visits that gives somebody who doesn't know anything about opera a lot of context and removes the the intimidation of going into a new setting and feeling like you might need to dress up when actually you're in a cinema. So, you know, I advocate for cinema as well. And then there's a huge amount of content available on YouTube that people can use to start to understand things. In terms of tours, so there is a tour program, and that is up and running, and it does include the backstage tours being up and running. But I think one of the things that people might not be obvious to people is that although we're a massive building, actually our spaces can be quite small, and so I would encourage, if people want to come on a tour, to think of a small intimate group and try and access one of the backstage tours. I think probably you wouldn't want to do it with more than 18 people. So, you know, in terms of creating design, one of the things that we're looking at is rather than doing the training for the teachers in a school, a host school, this next term, there's one session which is happening at the Shakespeare North Playhouse, the new Shakespeare North Playhouse in Knowsley. So the teachers are coming in to the Playhouse to learn. And the same thing is happening in conjunction with the Blackpool Grand in January as well. So this idea of being in a space to talk about the space and the opportunities and stagecraft, and working more in partnership with regional theatres is something that I believe strongly in. So yeah, but distance, you know, is tricky.
But great to hear that there are all those ways in, and thinking about accessing some of those other spaces that are kind of in local reach. That's really encouraging. Thank you. And I've got one more question, so please, folks, if you've got any more, get them in the chat quickly, but otherwise this will be the last one. I think, you know, schools across the board, schools and colleges, finances are under enormous strain, perhaps more than ever before. This is incredibly an absolutely free programme, you know, and the quality of the resources is astonishing. And it's all free, I suppose. And the question we've got here, though, is Ruth, it was really, really encouraging to see you making something astonishing out of literally nothing there. Can schools, particularly I'm thinking primary schools, who might be struggling with budgets, engage with this without great expense, given that the resources, the training resources are free?
Yes, is the quick answer.
Good.
I think you need some PVA glue
and cardboard boxes
and some
cereal
cardboard,
packets.
and I really do think that's all you need. And you know, adding colour often brings with it some financial implications, but you can make a model just out of photocopy paper. I often make my white card models out of photocopy paper because you can just rip it and make it stand up and it works, and then just put any kind of colour on top of the white. So it really is low tech, as low tech as you want it to be.
So it's really, it is about the, you know, the resource of the child and their imagination and their visual literacy really being developed.
We've added more information up front, both in the training and on the in the online resources, so that teachers can understand that they need to plan ahead what the full scope of materials might be, so that they're able to, you know, ask people to collect cereal boxes and see whether there's can be a donation of magazines and things like that. So yeah, but often in the when we have question sessions, the ability to get the craft resources is not actually as much of an issue as just people feeling that they have time to fit things within the curriculum. and carve out that space. And so for this season, we've changed the training and the scheme of work so that we're focusing on a 5-week or 5-lesson course rather than the 10-lesson course. And then, of course, if people want to take things further and go and work through cycles of refinement, then they can, and that's where they might bring in a greater number of materials. But we've tried to condense everything and make sure that it's very much about white card prototyping
and cereal packets.
Yeah, not white card, cereal card. I'll stop saying white card models, just cereal models.
Cereal card model. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think also just to make the point that doesn't mean a lesser outcome. It's not that we're saying you can do it if you don't have the resources. It's actually beneficial not to have too many. We also haven't talked about sustainability at all, but of course, the more we use paper products rather than plastics, then it can go into recycling, which I think is something that we obviously all are thinking about now. So across the industry, designers are phasing out the easy to use but have a long-lasting effect on the planet materials and replacing them with better alternatives.
So I'm glad you've ended on that note actually of sustainability, Ruth. It feels like such an important one. It's something certainly our members are very much engaged in debate about. So yeah, I mean, I'm just ticking off here the boxes. It gives you a way into thinking about sustainability within your our education practice. It has cross-curricular potential, it develops employability skills, it deals in empathy, it is flexible in terms of where you fit it into your curriculum, it will slot in beautifully into examined courses, it aligns very nicely with FE and HE destinations, it develops cultural capital, Ofsted love it, and it reaches all areas of the Art and Design National Curriculum, and it's free. Well, I think, what can we say? Thank you so much to everybody for just giving us a window into what I'll say it again, it's a no-brainer.
Thank you.
Thanks all.